Hello, community. Today we talk about AI in healthcare and in hospitals, and I will focus on cancer treatment and artificial intelligence. We will apply multi-agent AI systems here in medical clinical research, and today 12 new research studies on AI in medicine were published. So why not jump right into it? We will have a look like models like one that will provide the groundwork here for a multi-agent clinical system that will ensure a more reliable and more accurate diagnosis. Plus, we will look at future hospitals, how they can combine with AI a patient-level diagnostics with a population-level insight to create a better healthcare system. Now, I would like to indicate here 4 specific AI studies for you. The first one is here by the University of Maryland, enhancing clinical trial patient matching through knowledge augmentation with multi-AI agents. Really interesting here is by Google DeepMind, by Google Research and Google DeepMind. Here, Google has now specific AI systems here, foundation models for developers that build AI system for hospitals. So Google here introduces here the Health AI Developer Foundation Model, a suite of pre-trained domain-specific foundation models, plus tools and recipes to accelerate building machine learning systems for health application. And they cover here different modalities and different domains: radiology, X-ray, computer tomography, histopathology, dermatological imaging, audio. So real interesting. We see Google here wants to provide specific models here for hospitals. But what I would like to focus your attention are the following 2 studies. Published today, this is towards next generation medical agents. How OpenAI 1 is reshaping here the decision making in a pure clinical medical scenario. And we have, my goodness, University of Georgia, University of Alberta, Augusta University, Indiana University, University of Texas, Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School, Mayo Clinic, University of Colorado, and University of Georgia. We're gonna examine what they tell us, plus a really interesting study here by Stanford School of Medicine, and they ask here, can artificial intelligence generate quality research topic reflecting here real patients' concern in the real world? There are some beautiful insights in these 2 studies, and if you allow me, I will combine here both research papers and explain here the overall content here, the main content in a sequence, in a short story. So let's enter here the hospital of the future. Let's see whether AI research is today the leading and bleeding edge in AI for medical research. We have here 2 worlds, if you want. On the right-hand side, you have the world here of an individual patient. Let's imagine that the patient wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning, alone, completely alone. Maybe there is a medical condition. You cannot call a doctor. You cannot go to the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning. So what is happening that a lot of patients now record their medical conditions and sends it off to the hospital electronic health service. On the other hand, we have a classical American for-profit hospital environment. So there we have our AI that learns here the standard procedures of the hospital and becomes here for some individual diagnosis here an expert AI system. And the question is, can we combine those 2 into a multi-agent system? Now, in the paper by Stanford School of Medicine, it is interesting that they tell us that they analyzed 500,000 of those emails, of those documentations here from the patients, and they have here 2 particular sets. One is with breast cancer that was routed here to the Oncology department, and about 140,000 messages from patients with skin cancer routed here to the dermatology department. Interesting for me to learn that Stanford has access to more than 45 million unique messages from real patients here from the period of 2013 to 2024. So amazing. I was not aware that there is this uptake here by the patient that they record here their medical status and they record it here in the electronic health system that is then available to the clinic, to the hospital, to the university. Great data source. Plus, at the other side here, we have here the other AI, if you want, let's call it L1. This L1 operates here the high-stake environment of an ICU in the hospital, where really minutes can separate here critical cases. This L1 excels now in the real-time reasoning capabilities, and it just ensures that no patient is overlooked in their moment of need. Great. So let's have now here two AI systems. And here you can imagine here in the world you have the patient, if all those millions of messages are collected here, we have here another agent, let's call it L2. And this agent here is an epidemiological sentinel, silently parsing here terabyte here of the patient messages and here filtering out these patterns that go unnoticed, because in millions of those messages, to find those specific patterns, this is exactly where AI systems shine. This is where they excel. On the other side here, in the real clinic, in the department here, our L1 agent here is what we can call a clinical polymath, embedded here in the hospital wards, adapting here dynamically to urgent, personalized decision making. And this AI should become here a team member of the team here in the hospital, in the ICU. And now it is interesting that both studies focus on different topics, but you can easily understand why I decided to bring you both studies in parallel. Because if you just go for a minute to a little bit here of understanding what is happening, this AI agent, our L2 agent, he is here preparing some mathematical formulations here for the clustering and for the interpretation of the meaning of all this data. So at the core, this agent here, what it does, it takes here in all the human sentences. Then we just have a sentence transformer, an BERT model. So we create now with the help of a tokenizer, we create now a mathematical vector space. So semantically close sentences or chunks or words are now in this vector space here in an embedding that semantically closed topics go also in the mathematical vector space and are close by vectors. Then we have a dimensionality reduction with the UMAP technology. Beautiful. This is one of the most recent technologies, works great. And a clustering algorithm, BIRCH from, I think, 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And then this system here, crunching through millions of messages, is able here to see and discover new patterns, summarize here the finding of all of these messages, but also if you are the hospital itself, you can now have real personalized data for particular patients if they have particular medical situations. The complete summarization is then another, if you want, AI system. And here in this particular study, they went with GPT-4 Omni. And they give us here the results of the performance, but more about the technical details later. Now, in the other world, if you want, here in the clinic, in the ICU, we have here our agent. This is powered now by an OpenAI O1 model. So we have this chain of thought reasoning, we have this beautiful RAG system for handling here complex real-time data, for analyzing evolving scenarios. Plus we have as an agent here a memory system that allows us here to look back in the history about all the decisions and maybe have a self-evaluation. What would have been the best possible outcome given here a critical timescale and critical situation? So this system here is a real expert system, but this system here is also absolutely essential for a better healthcare system. Because imagine the next day, the operation was successful, yes, and now you're in the hospital and whatever, it takes some time now, but now also we have an AI system here for the data monitoring of your human data. So this L2 now in the hospital or maybe on your watch, maybe on your phone, you also can type here in the night in the hospital your parameter, how you feel, what if you have any medical condition, whatever. So there are huge real-time data now from the individual background of each patient. You can have their age group, you have exactly what they have, the therapy, you have their personal responses, you can record their conditions in a perfect time series. You know each hour exactly how conditions develop. You know exactly the medications. You can project further developments. How is this patient going to behave in general with a probability model if the patient is in the age group with this therapy, with these meds? Then we can expect in 3 days to see this, and in 5 days we have some beautiful development, hopefully. So you see, extreme data sensitive, but based also on individual data here in the hospital itself. But also we have the same here for, if you want, still the clinical part, because our L1 agent evaluates now also this multi-modal data that are provided now by L2. So all the different vital signs, all the lab tests, all the scans that are performed now, everything is now piece of a part. Now L1 can come to a differential diagnosis together with the human doctors. So this cross-referencing here of all the data that this L1 agent is now able to have access to compute, to integrate in its system here, maybe this AI system can now identify a new treatment protocol, maybe a better treatment protocol for a person with a specific age, for a person with some preconditions, a person with some sensitivity to some medicine or whatever. So you see, this individualization now with AI, there is a huge possibility to move forward here with personalized medicine, also not only here in the medical research, but also in the healthcare sector. And now imagine we have the person went home, everything was perfect, and then this little AI system here that reads here every night every input into the electronic data file, it detects a new pattern. That some of the patients of a particular hospital, they have some post-surgical care, and they have suddenly in the feedback now, maybe they have a depression or they have some specific symptoms here, particular recovering here from a longer ICU stay. So if you have those real-time data from your patients and you understand what is happening, if you have the data available, this system now can feed the other system here in the operative ICU and says, hey, some months later, this and that happened. So therefore now, our AI now in the ICU can take actions that the AI system or the human doctor might decide that these are necessary steps. I have here just the example here of some mental health improvement steps that should be taken maybe before some critical steps happening. So you see, this complete feedback loop that you have in this individual world where you have an AI agent and in this extreme specialized hospital ICU agent environment, if you have them working together, this could really improve the overall performance here of healthcare. So the idea is simple. Why should not have every hospital, every medical AI here in one of the stations of the hospital have really access to the patient data, have some personalized therapy, have some really individualization that you receive the best treatment possible. And then, of course, somewhere, and I ask here Flux to generate here this image, somewhere in the hospital complex, you have here the main intelligence where all the data from all the different departments come together. And then also, can you have here some cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary insight into the treatment of your patient, how you can improve healthcare, what was successful, what caused some problems, how you can accelerate the procedures, and. So given that suddenly all those data are available on a hospital level, of course, with a high security, that is your personal data, this feedback loop of care of all the different agents that are in your personal environment or that you encounter when you enter a hospital and, if all of those work together and can share the information, then we can have here this beautiful loop of care, and we can have here healing at scales that was never imagined before. And this is more or less now, in my view, the topic of those two publications. Now, of course, I know you're waiting here for the technical part, so let's jump a little bit into the technology. The first part here evaluates simply the performance here of OpenAI O1 model. So they say, listen, if we use this O1 as it is offered here by OpenAI as the backbone in our medical AI, multi-AI agent system, this could transform the clinical decision making. And they compare it here to OpenAI's GPT-4 across multiple medical agent framework. If you want the data, all the data available for you, all the benchmark data, and they're focusing here on diagnostic accuracy, the reasoning stability and adaptability to individual conditions. And what they found, that O1 exhibited here reduced variability in its diagnostic outputs compared to GPT-4, providing here a more consistent performance. And this, of course, is a crucial feature for clinical applications. And across all the data set here that we have in medicine, O1 consistently outperformed GPT-4 in diagnostic accuracy, particularly here if you have multi-step reasoning. And of course, the explanation you find in my last two videos for this. For the clinical integration, they examined this. How far can we integrate today's AI system into our clinical everyday procedures? And they told us here its structured diagnostic reasoning aligns closely with the human cognitive workflow, enhancing now the interpretability of all the medical data and the trustworthiness of the medical diagnosis. So this model here simulated here the healthcare professional systematic workflow. It integrates here all the detailed patient information and the patient symptom and matches them here to potential disease users here. Confidence distribution, you notice, improve the diagnostic accuracy and reasoning depth by dynamically incorporating here really the individual patient history into the decision making, having access to all the data that maybe a human does not have the time to sit down and study here some individual data files for hours and hours and hours. They tested here also the agentic clinic framework, and they say, hey, O1 here significantly improved here the diagnostic accuracy in both here the medical and complex and structured data set, all the data if you want here the exact numbers in the study. And while the advanced reasoning improves the outcomes, of course they noticed it comes at the cost of a computational efficiency. You remember I showed you that O1 with this test time training now in the inference run, it takes 90 seconds to come up with an answer. It takes maybe 120 seconds. So we are not talking about 10,000 tokens per second as an output or throughput of the LLM. We are talking about a system that takes time to really analyze data. And even if you have 10,000 GPUs in your cluster, if you watch my last videos, you understand we have now new technology in the inference run where we try to increase the computational accuracy. And of course, this goes to the cost of the computational efficiency. You have to pay more for this AI system, emphasizing here the need for selective model integration depending on the task complexity. This means if in a hospital you have a standard routine, if all the data indicate that you do not need a specialist AI system, if all the data indicate this is just a routine procedure, everybody knows exactly what to do, you don't have to pay here one of the most expensive AI systems on our globe. But you could go maybe with some specialized smaller AI models. Great. So if you want here, the real world clinical use case by all of this beautiful expert is multi-agent frameworks powered here by OpenAI O1 offer a real path towards AI system that closely replicate the collaborative and the dynamic nature of human healthcare teams, potentially leading to a better patient outcome. So I think this is a very positive projection how we could use here our best AI system also in clinical or medical scenarios. Now, the second study by Stanford School of Medicine is a little bit more technical, but never mind, we know exactly what's happening. So this research now focuses on patient-centered health research using AI. This is our little L2 agent that I showed you that is doing all the number crunching, the data analysis and everything. And by analyzing here over 614,464 patient messages in the electronic health record here, this study identified here the key patient concerns. If you wake up at 2 o'clock in the night and you feel something and you write it into your electronic health record for the professionals to know what is happening to you, at what point in the day it is happening to you, and the AI will build here a complete time series and offer maybe an explanation. This was done for individuals with breast cancer and for individuals with skin cancer. So they had the real world data from the real patients in the real hospital. This was not a synthetic data study. So what they used, as I already told you, they took here all the information in and they had a simple sentence transformer model where they mapped here the complete semantic content into a high-dimensional mathematical vector space. They used here the UMAP mathematical dimension reduction mechanism to reduce from 1000 dimension, let's say to 100 dimension, have there the classical clustering algorithm much faster if you reduce the complexity of the dimensions, and then search there in those clusters for the key phrases that define here the semantic content of these specific clusters. And they could do this specific for each cluster, and they could identify here the key phrases. Then ChatGPT-4 Omni was used here by Stanford School of Medicine with prompt engineering for the following steps. Summarize here the patient concerns of particular age group, of particular condition, of particular whatever. Generate research questions where suddenly you got a feedback with some medical condition that you as a doctor or you as a medical AI do not understand. Why is this happening? Then ChatGPT-4 Omni went to the existing literature, to the internet, was looking up, hey, does those symptoms correspond here with what we know, what we have in the medical literature? And if not, refine and validate here new research ideas. But now not on the ideas of some professors here in the clinic, but what is really happening here at home at an individual patient level. What are their problems? What is happening? Why don't we understand what is happening to them? And how can we improve the human conditions of those patients? So why not do more research here, specific what the patient need? And AI systems would give us here this insight. Then, of course, you have to have the human in the loop, and then you had a human expert evaluation. Now, rating all of this, what AI did, and they rated the significance and the novelty of AI-generated topics and insight based on this several thousand messages. And the result is that a significant proportion, 66% of the AI-generated topics that were based on the cluster analysis were real novel topics. They provided here new data. High novelty scores suggest that AI's potential to uncover unaddressed patient needs. Of course, you don't have a doctor sitting right next to your bed at home at 2 o'clock in the morning. But the AI is there for you. You can talk to it. It records all your data wherever in the night. Okay. What they found, and this is also interesting here for the breast cancer patients here, because there's a real world data here. The topics focus here on genetic testing. Should they do more genetic testing? On liver health, interesting, never heard that before. And dental care. There seem to be, if you have a chemotherapy, some dental issues that are popping up, interestingly. And for the skin cancer patients, you have topics that emphasize here the surveillance here of your particular areas of your skin and the aftercare after surgery. So you see the integration of AI in defining now new research direction could accelerating here, addressing here the real patient-reported priorities. So we could improve here also the medical research with this new insight and the data analysis by our AI intelligence system. So there you have it. If you want to sum up this study, they showed that AI can really bridge the gap between the clinical research, this is what I called my L1 agent in my short story, and the patient concern, what they write themselves in the clinical record, in their health record, this is my L2 agent. And multi-agent AI system enhance now the research prioritization by efficiently identifying and refining here really patient-centric issues. If you're a patient at home and you have issues and you can communicate this, those data are not left. They are somewhere in a data center and AI can analyze them, and on your personal individual level, it will be added to your personal data for the hospital, for your individual treatment, and it will also provide insight into the population level if you want. So therefore, I think that this intertwined framework with my L1 agent and my L2 agent here, identifying individual patient concern to generating here actions that you can perform in the clinic and you have the personal data here in depth. I think this is also an idea or a model that we could replicate not only here in clinical medical research, but also in other fields. So this is it for today. I hope I provided some new information. I found it interesting that on one day I found more than 12 new AI publications just on cancer and AI. So you see, this is a hot research topic here with all the research university and all the research hospitals here focusing how to apply AI in an effective way to optimize here the individual healthcare for the patients. It would be great to see you in my next video.